sustainability and social innovation. And I think that actually internet is a real big phenomenon, as all of you clearly know, which is transforming our life, but which is also presenting new opportunities for essentially every field. And so the idea of this conference is not only to deal with the technical aspect of internet, but also with all the rest, because essentially internet is made by humans. And so we use the internet to interact among us, to interact with the social contexts, to promote social innovation, to promote action, to perform a lot of things that have little to do with the technicality, but clearly they are founded on technicality. So we have to understand all the aspects, the social aspect, the artistic aspect, but also some part of the technical aspect. It is like inventing a new way, say, of producing art. Now when, I don't know, cinema entered into the field of art, we have to rediscover all the opportunities of cinemas, taking into account the technical possibility of the medium. And the same is for internet, clearly beyond art, beyond just communication, also for promoting, I don't know, e-health or any other kind of innovation. And so we see that there are a lot of activities today. There are a lot of presentations. I try to squeeze all them together in a small amount of time. In the afternoon, there are workshops that will be presented also today. In front of here, we have material that you can pick up and consult about projects. And I think this is all. I thank again all the European projects, all the innovative actions that accepted to participate to this session. Actually, this day, this open day, is essentially supported by them. And I let Fabrizio Sestini from the European DG Connect, and to present what is essentially a collective awareness platform, which is a spirit that I think, well, okay, it's up to you.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Franco. And thanks for inviting me to this event, and especially thanks for organizing this event, which is after the termination of the Network of Excellence on Internet Science, as you know, that we launched some 5 years ago, or even slightly more. And the purpose since the beginning was to define this concept of internet science and try to invite especially younger researchers to be aware of the complexity of the issues around the internet and of a different way of studying further developments on the internet, not just from a technological perspective, not just purely from a sociological perspective, but trying to put together all these elements in order to have a more holistic understanding of what the internet is and where the internet is going. So I'm not sure here, I don't have anything to control the computer.
Maybe you can use this one.
Thank you. So very small remote control.
Probably it's better if you stay here.
Yes.
With the keyboard.
Perhaps just
or with the mouse.
does it work?
I think that the keyboard is.
Okay. I just don't want it to be sit down because I will disappear. No. So sorry for the technical glitch. So what I would like to do in this presentation, I like to be as short as possible, actually. I saw that the slot was 45 minutes, but I'm grateful that we started a few minutes later, so that there will be also, I hope, some time for questions. The purpose of this presentation is to try to point out what are the possible different perspectives from which one can look at the internet developments and what could be the issues associated with that, making also some examples, for instance, about open policy making or about fixing asymmetry in data governance, which I think is one of the biggest problems on the internet nowadays. And then also to talk about CAPS, as Franco said, and to see also the relationship between internet science and CAPS, the multidisciplinary challenges, and where we are going to. This is still the wrong direction, okay. These are actually slides that we used since the beginning of the internet science story to talk about the artifacts that humans like to build throughout the history and to see what they mean for us. And actually, I've used these slides just because of the coincidence with the recurrence of the attacks to the Twin Towers yesterday. And all these big artifacts of the history have been built and could represent some particular developments. For instance, pyramids were a symbol of the technology mastering of the people who made them, also of the infrastructure which was needed to build them. Or the Colosseum is actually more representing perhaps the sociological aspects of it, how it was used to entertain people and distracting them from other issues, which is still very valid nowadays. Or actually the Duomo, which is just behind here, as a symbol of art, of artistic expression, but also of religious issues and, of course, struggles of power. And the Twin Towers, more recently, as a symbol of political and economic supremacy. And for this reason, actually, they were the target of attacks. And then the internet nowadays is probably the biggest artifact that we have ever built as mankind, not just in terms of weight, perhaps, of all the components of the internet, in terms of span, in terms of number of people involved and using it and benefiting from it. And the original purpose of this slide was to point to how life and humanistic sciences together are needed in order to understand the internet as it is and where it's going. But actually, there is also another perspective you can consider, that in the same way as the Twin Towers were the target of attacks in order to undermine progress, or were seen as a symbol of progress in some manner, even though perhaps partial and limited to the Western world. But the same way the internet nowadays could be seen as the most possible vulnerable target. I don't want to talk about terrorism or terroristic attacks, because that is something perhaps valued in terms of a real threat, but in terms of something that is really having a profound impact, a deep impact on our society, on human rights, on many, many things which are very, very important to humankind. So in this sense, preserving the important aspects of the internet is very important nowadays, perhaps even more than protecting some other symbols of progress. So what means internet for society? Well, of course, the main values are removing barriers of any kind, promoting inclusion among people, but also new economic models, the app economy, the collaborative economy, etc., new sociological and anthropological models. I think how young generations are using this. New legal challenges in terms of copyright, in terms of identity, in terms of cybercrime, new, or broader participation, again, a way to include new stakeholders in the process, in any political or social processes, creating new forms of collective intelligence, and perhaps even more important, all the big domain, or all the possibilities opened by the big data, by the open, possibly, data which can be collected over the internet. So what is next? Because on one side, one can wonder whether the present internet was something which was planned or just happened in a serendipitous manner. But then what is the future internet and what will it look like? This is something that, again, should be a concern for many of us, especially for the ones which are developing new technologies, new systems, and considering new applications of the internet. And for this, again, starting from the past, this was a study run by the Oxford Internet Institute and started some 4 years ago, trying to look at what could be future internet scenarios. And these scenarios were represented on a plane where you have, on one side, the tension between applications of the internet, which are more oriented towards collaboration and social values, rather than towards competition, individual values, economic development, etc. And on the other axis, you see the tension between being centrally controlled on the internet, so having a single point, for instance, to accumulate data or to accumulate control of the network, and a more distributed architecture, not allowing this concentration of power. And on this plane, the two main scenarios which were identified were, on one side, a scenario called power to the people, or corresponding also to the collective awareness platforms concept, so something very distributed, bottom-up, trying to stimulate usages of the internet for peer-to-peer, for wikis, collaboration in open manner, etc. On the other side, a scenario where the internet is instead used more for economic development or commercial services or entertainment, so is based, is more promoting and more attentive to digital right management, for instance, or copyright, than to openness and sharing of information. But nowadays, then, what are actually the real internets which are out there? So on one side, still on the same plane, on one side we have still this area of crowdsourcing, collaboration, of which the CAPS projects are some examples. Of course, there are many more initiatives and activities out there. But perhaps it's not as big as we could ever hope. Then there is some new, actually, activities going on in the domain of social entrepreneurship. This is a phenomenon which is rising, I would even say, against many expectations, and taking more importance, considering the collaborative economy or crowdfunding, etc. And attention, I'm not talking here about a few specific examples which are called the sharing economy and often confused with cooperative economy. I would consider actually Uber, Airbnb in a different area, because these are more services oriented to, honestly speaking, Uber is not really an example of collaborative economy. It's a taxi company which is paying its employees in a different manner, and which is also benefiting from other information from the users. And the same perhaps for Airbnb. Then there is another area which we could identify as web entrepreneurs, so people using the internet to develop new concepts in a more bottom-up manner. And then, of course, we have all this big area that was identified as Big Brother, which now perhaps is Big Brothers. So we have these big companies which are benefiting from the internet, from the data generated by the users on the internet, and also, of course, giving back some services, also public services, which are very important, but still in ways that you can expect from private companies. So all this raises some ethical considerations, some ethical aspects, and we can discuss a long time about what this could be, but this is also some of the outputs that I would expect from researchers in internet science. to consider in this kind of scenario what are ethical issues which which deserve discussion, and political policy regulation or just research activities. So, for instance, on the tension between centralized networks or community networks, the preservation of the end-to-end principle on the internet, considerations of the trade-off between privacy, identity, security, trust and reputation mechanisms which are needed on the internet, etc., etc. And last of which is the tension between centralized data management in these big platforms which are operating nowadays, and a more decentralized manner of managing data, of managing networks, which actually was at the origin, the main working principle of the internet. So actually this issue of giving people a choice is perhaps one of the most important ethical aspects on the internet nowadays. How to avoid the control of information, information which is key to our life by a few private companies. So this is a tension between the centralized and decentralized architectures and solutions, especially for data governance, because that is the most valuable issue nowadays. So what is the benefit of having one choice or having multiple choices against having only one choice, as for instance, a social network, or uniformity against versus diversity, or monopoly situation, which we see in several domains, and which could be counteracted by network neutrality rules, strong and applied in a sensible manner. Proprietary solutions versus open standards, clouds, which are very centralized manners of managing data towards versus community networks, and especially how to counteract the presence of very asymmetric data flows where everybody contributes to single companies, to single database, with a more decentralized data governance. So I said about possible examples. So one example is open policy making. The internet can be used, and there are many platforms which are using the internet for open policy making. We had one of the of the first CAPS projects called Decent, which was building open democracy tools for participation, which actually have been tested and used also by political parties in different regions of Europe, by Podemos, by the Pirate Party, and also by Movimento 5 Stelle, actually in Italy. Then other examples such as Fix My Street or Your Priority. So any kind of platforms helping people to work together, to decide together about political priorities, not just to vote. And actually this is also something that all the different phases of a democracy ecosystem are also presented in this slide by Nesta, where you can see that these platforms can help from the framing of the issues at stake to identifying specific issues which serve discussion, to generating options in a collective manner, scrutinizing these options, then taking decisions as well for public choices, and engaging in implementation. And also, last but not least, in helping with transparency and assessment of these policies. Another example is about fixing asymmetry in data governance. This was the subject of a call which we issued last year on distributed architectures for decentralized data governance, where the vision was to have a kind of distributed architecture where each piece of user-generated data actually remains with the user who generated it. We received some 15 proposals as a response for this call. We selected one, and unfortunately the budget available was enough only for funding one proposal, which will be launched now in a few weeks. So the principle behind this call was that, yes, this is something that we can build with existing or emerging technologies, for instance, a combination of peer-to-peer networks, concepts from blockchains or DLTs, and the concepts from open data or linked data. And this can be generalized to clouds, to social networks, and even to management of data on Internet of Things, which is probably the most important question nowadays. And the goal for this is not just to implement something technological, it's actually to create a whole decentralized innovation ecosystem. So the same way you can think of the app economy, having this kind of decentralized platform could give rise to a new ecosystem of applications which are intrinsically privacy aware because of the way the data is stored, not on centralized databases, but with users. And then the hope or the vision is that this will create interest for developers of these applications and for users of these, and allow more SMEs, more social enterprises as well to develop social innovation activities, or to develop, for instance, solutions such as Uber and Airbnb, where there is no so much centralization of power and data in the hands of a few private companies. What about CAPS and internet science? So I tried to exemplify a possible relationship between the internet science multidisciplinary research that we are encouraging with this initiative, and the CAPS, the development of pilots and experiments on social innovation, which actually should be informed and inspired by developments in internet science. And at the same time, we expect that the results of these pilots and experiments will motivate, will give some measurable outcomes, some experimental validation or not of the theories developed as part of the internet science. About CAPS, well, I think actually most of you are involved in some CAPS projects, so I will not spend so many words on this, but these are the basic elements of CAPS. So one is based on network effects, on stimulating collective intelligence. The objective is not to develop commercial applications, but to develop, to help at least us facing sustainability challenges, not purely economic challenges. It's based on open data, on open source and open hardware, in general on participatory innovation paradigms. And there is this requirement of having at least 2 entities in each consortium which are not from the ICT domain. We will come back to this later. And also it appeals to grassroots actors, not just to mainstream industries and academia, but also to hackers, to students, to NGOs, local communities, both as users of the system, which is important in order not to have just theoretical developments, and as developers of new ideas and concepts. So there is actually a next call in CAPS, which will be published in December and will close in April 2017. And this call well, will be again on the development of pilots for exploiting, we say, digital hyperconnectivity and collaborative tools based on open data. And we mentioned three areas to try to be a bit more specific, but still these are very broad areas. So one is on new innovation models for economy and society, something like participatory innovation, collaborative innovation, etc. Another is on solutions for sustainable lifestyle, such as collaborative consumption, smart reuse, and in general, low-carbon approaches, so how collective intelligence can help this and can provide new ways to promote sustainable lifestyles. And the other area, the third one, is on emerging ethics of digital innovation, something along the lines that I've tried to present before. So it could be on open democracy, on social entrepreneurship, on digital rights, etc. For this, we have a total budget of some 10 million, 9 of which for research projects, 1 for company measures. And what we do not expect from proposals, as usual, we don't want a proposal without an existing and motivated community of users. We don't want proposals which are technology-driven, because again, in the spirit of internet science, we expect a multidisciplinary view on these developments. And we don't want a consortia without at least 2 partners from non-ICT disciplines. So this is a reminder about this call. You will find all this in the presentations. And then this is a map actually of the CAPS projects which are running nowadays. Perhaps a couple of them are finished, ended their activities in the last few months. So you see a central group that we consider really the core for these developments, which are the internet science projects, because you know that after the network of excellence on internet science, we had 2 or 3 calls on internet science for research activities, not just for network of excellence. And these projects are mentioned there, USEMP, peer-to-peer value, and then we had more projects from the last call, which we launched, projects that were launched in January this year, such as NetCommons, NextLeap, and another one which I don't see now. And then we have all the CAPS projects which we launched in the last 3 years, which we have grouped around different areas. And this is a grouping that has been done after the call was closed. So it's not something that we defined a priori, also because we will not have been able to identify these areas without all the proposals, all the ideas that we received. So proposals are in the fields of open democracy, of open policy making, of the collaborative economy, of the collaborative making, of collaborative consumption, and then in general, new collaborative approaches to inclusion, to agriculture, to health, to disaster management, etc. And then also in the field of environmental action. And then, of course, we have also accompanying measures. I'm happy that actually we were able to launch the accompanying measure for CAPS, which is replacing the previous one. This is called CHIC. And they are organizing now the next big conference in CAPS, which will take place in Rome on the 1st and 2nd of February, 2017. So this is, I think, the first time that we announce publicly this, because it has just been decided, and Antonella will present a few slides after on this event. Just to make another link yet, I'm trying to put together a lot of elements here. I hope you will forgive me if this is looks overlapping, but actually these are different activities. This was the result of a study on digital social innovation, which identified a few areas for digital social innovation which would need further interest, further attention from the European Commission as well. And this includes some areas which are covered by CAPS projects and others which are not, such as funding acceleration and incubation, or the whole area of open access and in general of awareness networks. There is also for this area of digital social innovation an accompanying measure, DSI4U, which is running a continuous survey, mapping of digital social innovation activities in Europe. You can find it at digitalsocial.eu. And they are also arising politically on these issues through different workshops and events. About multidisciplinarity, also I would like to point out that probably because of this requirement of having two partners from different disciplines, we had a very broad and multidisciplinary participation to the second call of CAPS. You can see the ICT domain actually represents only less than a quarter of all the academic participation in the proposals. And you see large quotas from economics, from arts and media, from social sciences, life sciences in general, physics, and then other approaches. Also, I want to remind that these activities are fully in line with the SSH RRI approach, which is promoted by the European Commission. What does it mean? SSH is social sciences and humanities, and RRI means responsible research and innovation. So these are recommendations to make research in ways which take into account social values, social sciences, and which are responsible in terms of innovation, not just purely looking at economic developments. And in this respect, all the key characteristics of CAPS and internet science are fully in line with this kind of approach. This is also a slide on the multidisciplinary challenges that we see for the developments of this, and which require a broad range of disciplines. But again, this is something that we have already preached a lot, and that is not new for you, here in this room at least. And then what we expect as a strategic role for internet science. As a driver for a better internet and a better society. On one side, we expect governance, better governance principles in terms of safeguarding EU values as for sustainability, as for cooperation, or preserving the multi-stakeholder model at the basis of the European policies, or, for instance, to implement or to define new methods for an effective decentralized data governance. Then, in terms of policy-making processes, what could be the impact to support, to define, again, new approaches for participatory policy-making, for e-participation, for reinforcing democracy through an increased participation and inclusion of citizens in political choices, or to promote more transparency and use of open data, for instance, for participatory budgeting. Then, of course, rethinking law, cyber geography, defining an internet-friendly, innovative, normative ecosystem, and looking at privacy, with all the problems associated with it. And then last but not least, how internet science can help us as funding bodies at a European and national level to define better and more sensible research priorities. So to look at which kind of technologies are more potentially more useful for society at large, and not just for the competitiveness of big industries. Looking at issues of openness, inclusiveness, how to harness collective intelligence, how to promote internet as a tool for communication among citizens and not just to the citizens. So with this, it's over. Sorry for the very long series of slides. I hope this was at least suggesting something new or something different in terms of approach. And then if there are any questions, please. Thank you. Yes. But if you want to come.
Oh, for two reasons. First of all, because there is a recording, so, and then clearly all people can watch it.
Thank you, Richard Hill. It's very refreshing to see that at least one person in the European Commission understands the real issues, so thank you very much for that. I agree with almost everything you said, so I have one correction and then 3 suggestions for concrete areas for research which go very much in the direction you said. So you said that the internet is the largest artifact ever built by man. GSM network is much bigger and more complex because it has billing. GSM network has twice as many users. So actually the largest artifact is GSM network. And people always forget that because we're all thinking always about the internet and not about the underlying telecoms. Then in the specific areas of research, one you already mentioned, but I think deserves more attention, it's platform dominance. To what extent are platforms like Google search engine or Facebook in fact natural monopolies? Because although theoretically you can have competition for Facebook, in fact you don't. And now I see that many universities, I don't know if this one is doing it, are actually using Facebook as part of their offering to students, so students are locked in. And that, as you hinted, is a highly centralized platform, totally controlled, and there's no reason for it. It could all be decentralized, as Eben Moglen always points out. The second one, which is just coming up now in the literature, and I think has really been not sufficiently looked at, is the externalities arising from lack of security. If a company like, what was it called, Ashton Madley, the one that helps you cheat on your wife, which obviously I'm not using, that leaked all of its data. Well, that created a problem for Addison Masley, or whatever they're called, but it created a bigger problem for all the users. There was another case where credit card data was leaked. So all the users had to go off and change their credit cards. Who paid for that? Not the company with the poor security, but the users and the credit card companies. So there's an externality involved in lack of security, and especially for IoT. Right? If all refrigerators are insecure and they all get hacked, that creates a social problem. It's not just an individual problem for the users. And the third area, which is a very big one, and you hinted at it with Uber, is job destruction. Okay, the internet and ICTs are making things more efficient, so we all benefit, but specific people are losing their jobs. And when all the taxi drivers in the world go out of business because of driverless cars, what are we going to do? So there's an equity problem which goes with the efficiency gain, and which we haven't looked at. Thank you.
Just a couple of comments to this. On the point of Uber, actually we can discuss at length whether the internet is really the main enabler of this, because this is something that could be possible also without the internet. It is just more effective and has a broader reach, but there is not so much harnessing of collective intelligence for implementing a platform such as Uber. And as for security, of course, this is key and paramount in the development of all systems, but also there I would invite a broader perspective, in the sense not just to look at security from the standard perspective of having more secure algorithms, but also at considering that different architectures may be implicitly more conducive to a better security. in the sense of a distributed one respect to a centralized where attacks may be targeted at a central point, and then it's more vulnerable to any kind of attacks. And then in general also as for security, I have a general feeling that 100% security is just an utopia, and that we are used to live with insecurity to a certain level in our life, and we cannot pretend a higher security on the internet than we have when we walk on the street. So there is, we have to be realistic also in the expectations.
Just an announcement. Who is going to present something? You want to present some slide for the next presentation? Please give them to me so that I can. We have not to switch computer and so on. And I remember all of you that after the coffee break there will be a round table for discussing a lot of these themes. So please go on, but still participate to the round table.
Žiga Turk from the University of Ljubljana, Slovenia. Fabrizio, thank you very much for an excellent presentation. I have a comment and a suggestion. The comment is, in one of the slides, you had like on one side the self-interest and on the other side the public interest. And I think that that goes contrary to a very long economic tradition that says that actually there is no discrepancy, there is no conflict between self-interest and public interest, that it is in the public interest that people pursue self-interest, which is not the same as selfishness. And the suggestion would be, in that scheme of things and of future topics, I think it would be very important to look at the impact of the internet on inequality. It is a very important topic in the public discussions, and I think there are some arguments that internet makes it worse, but also some arguments that it makes it better. And there should be, I think, a serious study about that. Thank you.
Thank you. I totally agree, and I think that will be a very good subject for internet scientists to look at and to try to understand what is the real impact of internet on inequalities and on inclusion in general, actually. Any other questions? Thanks a lot.
It was very interesting, the table in which you show what is a monopoly and what is decentralized. One issue that I see a lot in this type of, I mean, we are aware of this type of polarization, but on one side, in the mainstream, the people are affected by the fact that who has a monopoly, they use marketing strategies to present themselves as collaborative and as a way to give choices to people, but actually the choices that they give is not really a choice, but is limited. So I think it's really important, and I want to understand what is your opinion on this, in which way we can also take outside of these nice people that know a lot of people to support people in understanding what does it mean collaborative, what does it mean fake collaboration, and in which way we can push our content when it's really collaborative, when it's really distributed, in which way we can differentiate from the marketing strategies of who has a monopoly, who uses the rhetoric and the words and the concepts that we are using to push their own vision that is not collaborative.
Absolutely, and these are the kind of ethical questions, just the one on inequalities and inclusion, that could be actually be explored in proposals for the next Call of Caps. I mentioned there is an area on ethical aspects of internet, and we also expect actually to be able to fund at least one proposal for each one of these three areas that I mentioned. So we want to give really a chance for research projects in this area to investigate ethical issues such as the ones you mentioned. thanks a lot. Then I think the next presentation, which is coming up, is on the conference.
Just a moment, we have downloading our presentation. Just
If you want to present, perhaps to present the conference.
Yeah, I can start talking and then show. It's just actually it's just the flyer that you can find on the registration desk, and I have more if you want to bring home to colleagues or future events. I'm Antonella, and I'm presenting here the CHIC Consortium. It's a support in action we just started, and our aim is to bridge the CAPS community with other digital social innovation community around Europe and possibly behind Europe. So to really create a dialogue and a collaboration with the practitioners, researchers, grassroots movement that are working on the same topics we are. So the first event will be in Bratislava on the 28th of September, so we're almost approaching it, and will be an occasion for collaborating all together in planning the future activities of our project, especially in terms of knowledge exchange, collaboration, and meeting with potential investors or policymakers, foundations, person that can support the CAPS project and CAPS challenges after the end of the funding period. As Fabrizio just said, the sustainability of all this action is something that matters. So we don't want these projects that are really useful and successful to end after the end of the European funding. So we will try to support you as much as possible. But here today we are launching the first Digital Social Innovation Fair, which in fact continue the tradition of what was CAPS conference in the last 2 years. It will be in Rome, the 1st and 2nd of February. So you are not only invited to take part, but invited to support us in the organization. We will start talking about this in Bratislava, but then we will continue online. So any idea and proposal is more than welcome. And I would like also to present you, and I have some copy with me, the final publication of a previous support action, which was INSCI2016. We studied CAPS project of the first run and their impact at socio-economic, political, environmental aspects. So if you are interested, I have some copy with me, or you can download for free, of course, online. Thank you. And the slides, if you want to project, just so you can remember the picture.
which one?
Digital Social Innovation Fair, that one. No, the previous one.
This one.
Yes. Just this. Okay, just this, so you can visualize the data. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Clearly, if there are comments, you are free to intervene. I would like to pass the microphone to Ziga Turk, who will present a workshop of this afternoon.
Thank you very much. So this will be a short commercial for the workshop that will take place in the building next door between 2 and 4 o'clock on responsible research and innovation in ICT. If you could just fire it up. Thank you so much. So this is a support action. The bottom line is that there is a lot of public funding of R&D in ICT. This is all determined by scientific and other policies. And there is a need to demonstrate that all this research, all this public funding that basically we are all using has some kind of societal relevance. And this can be called responsibility, not only towards society, but towards some other factors as well. And the concept of responsible research is affiliated with that. Responsible research aims to better align both the processes and the outcomes of research and innovation with the values, needs, and expectations of the European society. As I said, there is a project that is curating this topic, RRI ICT Forum, which is monitoring, analyzing, supporting, promoting responsibility in our domain. There is the website, there is the URL, and there will be a workshop on this afternoon. One of the things that we developed over the first year is a kind of framework of responsibility so that we can discuss who is responsible, in what way is the player responsible, to what extent is it responsible. We have identified kind of 5 dimensions of responsibility: epistemic, social, ethical, procedural, and legal, and 5 different levels of how responsible can you be about this. And this will be presented and, of course, discussed. We are looking for feedback from you about this. Can you relate to that? Can you improve on that? And there will be I think, a discussion, the interesting discussion between people who are into funding of research, people who are concerned about the responsibility of research, and researchers themselves, is, okay, it's nice to be responsible, but what we want to do is interesting stuff. We want to do good science. So if you put good science, interesting research, top-notch questions on one axis, and responsibility, social, ethical, etc., on the other axis, where do you want to be? Is the top right corner the only place to be or not? This will be the debate this afternoon, and you're all welcome. It will be in room number 7. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who want to be the next? So the arrangement is chaotic. And I remember that this afternoon there are 4 workshops near here in Via Capponi 9, which is 500 meters from here. And so, what's your presentation? Do you find it?
No, perhaps it's... this is profit and presentation.
Okay. Zoom. Okay. I don't know how to use this. I never use. How is this control something like this? Okay. Here or there as you want.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I'm Anna Satsou from CERT, and I'm representing the CAPS project called Profit, related to the promotion of financial awareness and stability. Actually, the whole idea started from a Greek company that were discussing about the Greek crisis, about the Greek citizens that were frustrated and they were bombarded by a lot of new economical terms from the media, which they could not understand, so they could not follow what actually was going on. So we thought that a platform raising financial awareness, helping the people to understand what is going on in their local economy or globally, and to understand some financial terms that they're not aware with, should be very valuable. So the ultimate goal is to allow the citizens to take more responsible financial decisions. And also from an open democracy perspective, this could be conducive to more active forms of participation and citizenship. Profit has 3 main parts: the tools. The one is related to financial collective intelligence, the other to personal financial education, and the other one to participation and interaction services tools. In a little bit more details, it consists of a personal financial education toolkit available to the wider public, crowdsourcing tools that will process financial data provided by the users of the platform, as well as extracted from the web in order to present collective knowledge, advanced forecasting models that exploit the market sentiment in order to identify market trends and threats, novel personalized recommendation system to support financial management according to the user's profile, and reputation-based incentive mechanisms to motivate the participation of the users and their contributions in the platform. So what a user can do when he logs in such a platform? First, he can assess his financial knowledge and skills through a literacy test provided by the platform. And then he will be appointed to can be educated via personal financial toolkits and guidance from the platform. Also, he can access financial collective knowledge and stay informed, and he can get rewards by contributing and interacting in the platform. The more he contributes, the better personalized recommendation he can get about content of his interest and other users of similar preferences. And the more experienced he gets in the platform, he can now have access to more advanced financial forecasting data. We target actually any kind of user, from average users, the general public, taxpayers, unemployed, etc., to moderate users like insurance, investors, first-time buyers, and to more experienced users like professionals, financial services, government executives, political party members, etc. Who we are actually 6 core partners and 7 associated partners. We also have our user forum members, 16 experts outside the profit platform that will provide us with their feedback. And we also have all of you and anyone interested in what we are doing. And you are much encouraged to subscribe to our newsletter via our website. And you can get updates about our progress and also have the opportunity to contribute to our project by providing your valuable feedback. So here we are, the 6 partners. We also have FEBEA. This is a Federation of Ethical and Alternative Banks who are going to test and evaluate our platform, and they bring together a couple of associated social banks and institutions. And you can connect with us via all of these means, and we have also our leaflet outside which you can get. Now, we also organize a workshop today. It starts at 1 o'clock in room 4 in Via Gino Caponi. Perhaps Franco will give some more details about the location. And also the website of our workshop is there, so you can find some details about it. Some few things about the program of our workshop. We will have a very interesting keynote speech from Professor Steve Seferes, who is the Director of Financial Journalism in the City University of London. And he has a wide-ranging background in business and finance journalism, both for television and online. And he was also the economics correspondent for BBC News Online. He's going to talk about the web and the challenge of financial literacy. Then we're going to present our results from an online survey that we had regarding the user requirements, what the users would like from such a financial awareness platform, followed by a presentation related to the incentive mechanism that we're going to develop in order to encourage users to start using such a platform and engage their participation in the platform. And then we have some presentations related to the content of the platform, the financial forecasting models, as well as the financial collective intelligence tools that we're going to use. At 4, we have a coffee break, and then we're going to discuss about some results from the interviews we've taken from experts from the FEBEA member organizations regarding the benefits of such a financial awareness platform, followed by 3 more presentations outside of profit partners that bring new interesting ideas and work that could be used in profit. And then we have an interactive roundtable discussion with all of you that are going to attend so that we can get your valuable feedback. So we're waiting for you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Just an explanation of where we have this afternoon session. You have just to exit from this building, turn left. After, I don't know, 10 meters, turn left again, go to Piazza Santissima Annunziata, and then you turn again left, and after, I don't know, 100 meters, there is the old chemistry department, Via Gino Capponi 9, and there you are, so very near here. Okay, so who want to be next presenting their activity? This one.
Florence,
yeah.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Giovanna Calabro. I am the dissemination manager of the Capsella project. Capsella is tackling an important aspect, which is actually the food system overall, which goes, as I'm saying in the very start of this presentation, from seed to fork. Okay, what Capsella is actually doing is using a real driven and bottom-up approach, in the sense that we are involving communities which are concretely supporting our project, and this was shown already in the first event that we organized in Volterra in May. As this bottom-up approach has meant to provide us concrete feedback in terms of needs and requirements from the communities of farmers, specifically from the agrobiodiversity sector, but also farmers who are more in the precision farming or in the, let's say, generical term of agriculture. What we are like to do is providing tailor-made ICT solutions that can match and respond to the needs and requirements that the farmers are telling us. As you see, the major sustainability challenges that Capsella would like to address is the climate change, of course, the biodiversity threats, and the food quality, as food is actually the last part of our food system, because eventually we all know that diversity in our diet can make our life better and most likely ourselves healthier. What we are doing is, as I said, collecting this with this bottom-up approach, needs and requirements, but we are also using a top-down approach, in the sense that we will build up on existing open database, which some partners that we have in our consortium, such as the Rete Semi-Rurali, already have, database with open data, of course, so available, and that farmers are willing to share with us. But we will also build from scratch new open data sets that will eventually be shared and then facilitate the work of farmers throughout Europe. How do we do this? We will use online services, and in the next slide I will actually underline two tools that are already available, where we would appreciate very much your support in terms of promotion and communication. We will organize physical events, which will go from awareness-raising workshop, as the one I already mentioned in Volterra. We will organize the first Capsella Hackathon in Athens in early December. And we will then, in the last phase of the project, run a series of incubation activities with training events in a very strong entrepreneurial aspect that will eventually lead to the creation of startups. These are the tools I was mentioning to you, which very much show this bottom-up approach I already mentioned. We are collecting through an online questionnaire the needs of the farmers. How do we do this? We run interviews. We have physical meetings with them. Actually, on Wednesday, the Scuola Superiore Sant'Anna and myself, we are going to Padova, where we will meet a network of Italian farmers called Esapoda. And we will talk to them all day long, not only explaining what Capsella can do for them, but mainly trying to make them understand that through the understanding of their needs, we can develop tailor-made ICT solutions to satisfy what they would like to have. This was clear already in Volterra, as I said, where some key challenges already raised. The first one was very interesting. Farmers are keen to understand how ICT can tackle the problem of soil eruption, for example. As we all know, rain is nowadays quite often very violent, at least in Italy we are seeing this. So people are facing concrete problems with soil eruption. So they would like to understand how and what kind of responses ICT could give them. just a few slides related to the key dissemination activities of Capsella, so where you will see us. Obviously, tomorrow afternoon, after 4:20, there will be a more detailed Capsella presentation. Then, in the next few days, my colleagues from the AgroKnow Consortium will be in New York at the Godan Summit. I'm very keen on underlining this event because it's one of the key worldwide open data event, and Capsella will have a booth within the AgroKnow booth. Then we will be in Bratislava at the end of this month. We will have, as I mentioned to you, the first Capsella event in Athens, and we will be, of course, in Rome, as just heard from Antonella, the confirmation that in early February there will be this CAPSI event in Rome, so we will be there. Obviously, many more events will follow up. Just another example, which is not listed here, is the second Capsella Hackathon in Crete next May, but obviously everything is available on our website. This is just no exhaustive list of what people are saying about us. I'm quite keen of underlining that we have a very strong collaboration, for example, with the ISOFAR team. ISOFAR stands for International Society for Agricultural Research, and they are actually very much supporting Capsella. The other one is the e-agricultural, which is one of the FAO website, and they are obviously one of the main website players about ICT and agriculture. And then the AP Agri newsletter is also promoting us in the next upcoming newsletter. This is how you can follow us on our social media. And just a few words on who we are, which is quite clear. Our coordinator is the Athena Research Center in Greece. Then we have the Scuola Sant'Anna, and the rest of the partners is listed, obviously, in this slide. Thank you, and sorry for being a bit too long.
Excuse me, but there are a lot of people here. So, somebody want to participate? Okay. Okay.
Hello, my name's Richard Absalom. I'm part of the Durham Zoo project, which is a project to build a search engine for search and innovation. In 1895, there were two Belgians who created something that's now called the paper internet. Basically, they created a classification system. It was an amazing thing. Unfortunately, it was destroyed in the Second World War, but it was done for humanistic purposes. They wanted to index all of information, so you could phone up or send a telegram for some information. They would find that information for you and give it back to you, and they'd do that for free. We plan to build something similar. The big problem they had was that it was on paper and it was centralized. We believe we have found the solution to decentralizing classification, which means that we can crowdsource everyone's knowledge, put it in a database, and then we can use that to find same or similar information, knowledge, and potentially solutions to problems. We plan to build a community interest company, so we want to make as much money as possible through things like targeted advertising, and then we want to give it all away to things like academia, solving sustainability problems or whatever. But I'm around here for the next couple of days. Durham Zoo, I've got a poster. If anyone wants to come and see me, please, I'd need some help. Thank you.
Sì, mi dica.
Ciao Bagnoli, so che faccio, buongiorno.
Però siamo nella conferenza, possiamo mai fare un po'. For the social lunch, social dinner. Vedete? Not here. One of these. This one. Mayo first should be here, no?
I think I will be the next. I am Maya Fuster, and I am here to present the peer-to-peer value project, which is also a CAPS project from the previous and first call. The peer-to-peer value project, it is because it's still active, but in September it's finishing, although that we are so happy that we are going to keep collaborating with some of the partners based on national-based funding that we have raised. The peer-to-peer value project aimed to create useful resources for the increase of common-based peer production or collaborative production based on commons framework. Commons refer to collaborative economy. Commons refer to collaborative communities that through peer-to-peer relationship supported under a digital platform develop a common resource that is of collective property and is collaboratively governed. Cases of commons-based peace production are the free and open source software projects that were the first to appear, that developed the free software. Then also Wi-Fi-Net, which is a wireless community network in Barcelona, which actually is a very good case to think what commons are. Wi-Fi-Net appeared as in the Pyrenees mountain, in a context in which the local administration were not providing the internet, neither the companies were providing internet wireless access because it was not profitable. So in a context in which both administrative solutions and market solutions were not working, citizens start to collaborate in order to develop their own infrastructure and govern this infrastructure to facilitate wireless access through a common resource. So this is what characterizes commons, collaborative communities which bring together a common solution, which is not profit-driven or is not provided by public administrations. Another case is Wikipedia, that I assume you already know, or Goteo, which is a crowdfunding project also supported by a commons perspective. Now there is actually a second wave of commons collaborative production, which tend to be adopted the name of platform cooperatives, which refers to projects that are linked to cooperatives in order to support their sustainability. One case is Fermondo, which is a marketplace exchange digital platform, which is owned by the users and sellers and buyers at the platform. It's like a eBay platform, but instead of being owned by a multinational, it's owned by the community which actually exchange through the platform. Stockholm United is a platform owned by freelancers of photographers. And INSCI2016 is a cooperative which provides collective decision-making tools, like Lumio, which is also very famous. So commons understanding built on the base of the work of Ostrom, which gained the 2009 Nobel Prize, Economic Nobel Prize, showing how far actually commons might be a better way of production than state or market-oriented solutions, and then also Benkler, which bring the commons from the natural resources, which was the specialized of Ostrom, into the digital sphere. The peer-to-peer value project is based on lean principles in the sense, and lean development in the sense of that we develop research and action research that it tests very, very fast with the communities, and this informs the development. All the project is action-oriented, and we build two types of resources for the rise of common-based production. On the one hand, we have built technologies and technological solutions, mainly two elements. One is TEAM, which is an app which helps the collaborative distribution of tasks by communities. And the other one is SwellRT, which is an architecture that allows decentralized based technological solutions, which now is going to be adopted by Apache. The second type of solutions that we have been developing is public policies, which would promote the rise of commons production in as such. Methodologically, we have been combining different methods in doing this. A very important piece of this has been the building of the largest data set of common-based peer production with 15,000 observations, in which we have been collecting features like the typology of governance solutions, sustainability models, systems of reward and recognition, and the value dimensions connected to the cases in order to identify which are actually the design choices that tend to characterize the cases that tend to be rise collaboration. We have been mapping the expansion of common-based peer production, and this is a distribution of a sample of 300 cases, which show how far it's a very persuasive and plastic model, because from the brown square, which is free and open source software projects, which were the first in appear, so are the more common, it has been rising to many, many other areas like open science, peer funding, urban commons, or peer-to-peer currencies. We have been also identifying and analyzing the ecosystem of common-based peer production and the relationship between the cases, and identify also that, like during the industrial production, in the common-based peer production, there are also like clusters of cases that tend to collaborate strongly and develop networks of production. But also we have been analyzing the expansion of common-based peer production, not only in terms of areas of activity, but also in terms of its hybridification, and how far corporate-based models and profit-driving models have been adopting some of the elements of common-based peer production, like the community interaction through a digital platform, or even the peer-to-peer relationship, but leaving aside the commons dimension. And so with this, the emergence of the Silicon Valley modalities of corporations like Uber or Airbnb that share some of the characteristics of commons models or platform cooperatives, but lose the commons governance dimension because they are based on large corporation, or use closed technology, or not open license, like is the case of the commons modality. We have been also investigating the dimensions of value connected to the common-based peer production, and also developing a co-creation process in order to define policies that public administration could apply in order to support it. And actually, out of this process of co-creation, we end up with a declaration, Pro-Comuns declaration, with 150 policy recommendations, and Barcelona City Council have adopted 75% of them. And we have been also informing Amsterdam and Bristol administration. Thank you.
Sorry for pressing. Okay, just another announcement. As you have heard, I was contacted by the restaurant for the social dinner of tomorrow. Whoever wants to join, there is still the last chance to join us. The menu is on the website, so let me know if you want to participate or not, because I have to confirm the number of participants. So, what's Wikirate, here it is. Let me see if I can
Hello, I'm Vasiliki Gadziaki for Information Technologies Institute in Thessaloniki, Greece, and I'm currently working with Wikirate platform. Wikirate is, as you are already aware, a collective awareness platform for sustainability and social innovation project with the mission to design and build a crowdsourcing a platform for crowdsourcing better companies. So we are a European Commission funded project, and we specifically were funded under CAPS, and 6 partners across the Europe and the United States are involved in the project. Wikirate's mission actually is to push companies to be more transparent and responsive by making their data about their social, environmental, and governance impacts available to everyone, from investors to citizens and consumers. We also aim to facilitate not only to facilitate the collection and aggregation of data, but also to make them more usable, understandable, and comparable. So why we are doing this? Companies increasingly encouraged to, and sometimes legally required to, report about their environmental, social, and governance performance. In long CSR reports, usually these data are stuck in long PDF documents, and it's not very easy for stakeholders to have access, quick access to the information. So we want to make this data available to investors, researchers, civil society organizations, consumers, and journalists. So the main focus of Wikirate project is on data aggregation and community engagement. There are a lot of data that's scattered across the websites of different organizations, so we have created an easy-to-use information extraction framework to extract data from these web pages, and also there is a lot of data donated to us from for a lot of NGOs. And also, a lot of users are contributed to the data in the Wikirate platform at the moment. Also, a lot of data are generated by experts. We have actually data partnerships with global initiative, yes, and we are working currently with a number of NGOs and academics and students, like University of Cambridge, Amnesty International, Oxfam India, Greenpeace UK. That's for me for today. Tomorrow I'm going to give you a more detailed description and for the project. Thank you.
Thank you for the conciseness. So, I'm trying to let you go to the coffee break in time.
I'll make it very short.
Okay. This one.
Yes. So my name is Michael Furls. I'm representing the Decarbonate project. Our main research goal in this project is to investigate the possibilities of social platforms to mitigate climate change. Therefore, we have developed a set of online applications like the Climate Challenge, which is a game with a purpose. It enables players to compete each other and solve different task types all related to climate change. We were launching this game in cooperation with NOAA and other partners like the WWF and Earth Hour. So we had the promotion effect of those big organizations and could leverage their communities to boost our players. The next big application that we have launched is the Media Watch on climate change, which is basically a set of visualization tools that enables user to search different topics and how they have been portrayed in the media and how the media has handled those topics. It is also possible for partners, e.g. the Earth Hour use this tool to track their social campaigns during the Earth Hour. They used it basically to see when they had peak usage, which promotion of them got positive effects, and what the users talked about during Earth Hour and how they talked about it. This is a short overview of the structure of our project. It is basically based around 3 main components, which is the climate challenge, the media watch on climate change, and also the energy quest. The energy quest gave the users energy devices, and they could track their energy usage. And they had also a platform where they could discuss tips to save energy and also compare how much energy they used and try to get better in this. I will get into all of this in more detail tomorrow, but just for a brief overview, this is what we have done during our project. Thank you.
Keep in mind that you have the video recording of this session, and all the slides. They will be available through the website of the conference. So sorry for being so concise, but you may explore the contents at your will. Okay, let's see. This one?
This one, the first one, yes.
Okay. Here.
Hello everyone, I'm very happy to present our project that is called Next Leap for new generation techno-social and legal encryption, access and privacy. So as you can see from the title, we are here to address the issues of privacy and encryption. And we have a lot of partners. We are an international project with Spanish, German, and French and British partners, and Brexit didn't stop our project, fortunately. And I want to read this quote of Edward Snowden that kind of leads us. We need to encode our values not just in writing, but in the very structure of the internet. So our idea is to develop protocols that would be based on social and philosophical research. So I would like to remind that the presentation of Fabrizio was quite inspiring for me. For example, when you mentioned that we should base our projects on the bottom-up existing user communities and not try to produce some protocols that would be only technology-driven. So what we try to do in Next Leap is to survey cases that exist and address their vulnerabilities, look at the protocols and look at what doesn't work, and try to propose something that would be actually working better. And our main questions are the following. So can decentralization really help privacy and anonymity? Because intuitively we think that if it is decentralized, then it will be secure. But the research shows that decentralized protocols are also very fragile and vulnerable, so we need to check it out and make deeper research on it. And the second question is how to build scalable and high-performing decentralized architectures, because as people who work with bitcoins, for example, or blockchains know, the bigger the centralized network is, the more difficult it is to keep it performing. So that is another challenge. And I will be very quick. So we have 3 main protocols. The first one will address the address book, so everything about key management. Those of you who use PGP, you know that you store your keys on a server. The problem is that now these servers are centralized, and sometimes there are malicious agents that can name themselves, for example, Jacob Appelbaum, put their key on this base, and if I want to write to Jacob Appelbaum, who is the founder of Tor project, I will use this key, but it will be not the key of Jacob. It will be some malicious agent using this identity. So we will address this problem. The second one is the problem of interoperability. How can we make systems that would work in different situations, in different operational systems, and would be really interoperable? And also, this addresses the problem of digital migration. What does it mean? For example, my grandmother does not use PGP. She uses normal mail. I want to write her a message and I become vulnerable. How can I convince my grandmother to switch to some more secure tool without making her migrate from the tools that she is used to? So this is another challenge. And I like this picture. It is written, when you encrypt content but not metadata. So another challenge that NextLeap addresses is to encrypt metadata. What does it mean? If I write a message to you, the third party will still know that we are exchanging messages. And this information is enough for malicious engines to make us vulnerable. So I will finish, because we have no time, just to say that tomorrow I will be here for the poster session, and I will present what I did for the project, because I represent the social science and humanities part of the project, and I did the 30 cases survey together with Francesca Musiani. We are from CNRS, and I will present different applications that I studied, and also the user studies. And if you are here, I will invite you to check out the poster, and I will be happy to have some feedback. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, yes.
Hi, I'm Zoe Romano, and I'm representative together with Serena Cangiano of the INSCI4U project. It's a 14-month project working on dissemination and creating new tools for to spread the concept of digital social innovation in Europe. Of course, before in Fabrizio Sestini presentation, he briefly introduced the concept and the aim of the project. Of course, the first one of the important, let's say, tasks that we have and challenges is to share this idea of digital social innovation, what it is and what it does. So it's a type of collaboration in which innovator users and communities collaborate using digital technologies, actually to co-create knowledge and solution. This is something that sometimes, I mean, when you explain it, it's people get it and understand, but sometimes it's hard only to communicate this concept to have the feeling of what it is. That's why the, this, oops, doesn't work, doesn't move. So, first of all, this is the second part of a project. So DSI was a 2-year project, and now has a second session of the project that it lasts 14 months until next year, 2017 in March. And we started doing a mapping of the project, and the idea is to create a hub in which project and subject that are working on this topic can recognize themselves and collaborate and get in touch to create a network of project, and can also create joint ventures and maximize the impact and also the communication of it. And of course, this is the slide that Fabrizio showed, and I think is an important step in understanding what are actually the sectors and also the industries and the areas in which DSI is working and is active. And the idea is building a community of projects that are within this type of action in the territory. Of course, it's especially interesting when you try to frame what does it mean, bottom-up solution, what does it mean not to, which kind of action you need to build, and which type of difficulties you have to create more impact and to grow this type of questions. We are trying to answer to them and provide a recommendation and action to increase the impact of this type of projects. And we are doing it with two type of, let's say, three type of action. One is studying and understanding and raise case studies and communicate case studies of projects that have a good record history, and turn the digital social.eu into a hub in which there is communication and collaboration. That's why part of the project is about developing a website in which this project can actually showcase themselves and get in touch. And the last one, and the one where we are more involved in, is developing a toolkit, a DSI toolkit, through a process of workshop and mentoring and training program that we are doing since February, and that we are going to do it at key events, especially focusing on the maker culture and new ways of making.
Yeah, we already organized 3 workshops that addressed the problem of assessing the impact of DSI projects, and we are doing it usually. We are doing it applying a kind of the method coming from the open hardware, open design fields, and so that's actually our method. So we are choosing to ask people to collaborate and to generate together with us this toolkit that will aggregate a kind of informations that can be used to scale, not just from, of course, a financial point of view. The toolkit will be open source and collaborative, and we will release it soon at the Maker Faire. So that's also an invitation, because we are organizing a workshop at the Maker Faire Europe in Rome on Friday 14th, and you are all welcome to join this workshop, where basically we want to learn how to assess the social impact of maker projects, but also creating a collaborative and distributed exhibition. So we will basically go around the Maker Faire, and together with your help as ambassador, if you join the workshop, we will scout and hunt let's say, the DSI project at the Maker Faire. So please, if you want to know more about the program, just come and ask, get in touch with us. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We are a bit late, so I propose to stop now to have a coffee break and then start with the last presentation. Try to squeeze the coffee break to 20 minutes. So in the ground floor here in the garden, there is some coffee, some sweets, and so on. So please be here in 20 minutes.